After my daughter-in-law called me a loathsome old woman, I revealed an incredible surprise. The laughter of my grandchildren echoed in the dining room, a joyful soundtrack to the swirling emotions boiling inside me. "Martha's just an old bag," Lisa had said, her words sharp as daggers, flinging my spirit into a pit of despair. Had years of wisdom and love rendered me loathsome? I had devoted my life to nurturing them all, yet here I stood, feeling like a ghost among the living, shackled by their disdain. The clatter of plates and chatter muffled my thoughts as my heart raced. I was once vibrant, a schoolteacher brimming with passion and natural authority, but now, in this crowded room, I was invisible. Dishes were passed around as if I didn't exist. How had I let it come to this? Deep down, my heart felt as though it was being squeezed in a vice. I was tired of shrinking back, tired of feeling small. Yet every time I told myself that I deserved better, Lisa's condescending eyes seemed to echo louder, reminding me of my inadequacies. A part of me wanted to scream, to let my family know how deeply they had hurt me, but the fear of stirring further discontent kept my mouth shut. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. I excused myself in a rush, escaping to the attic where the dust of neglect cloaked memories. The air was stale but familiar, holding whispers of my past. I stumbled upon an old trunk, the rusted hinges creaking open like a forgotten treasure chest. Inside, my late husband's art supplies lay dormant, layers of dust hiding them from sight, from the life I had buried beneath responsibilities. As I touched the worn brushes, I felt a twist in my stomach, a potent mixture of longing and regret. Realization struck. I had lost a part of myself to make room for their ambitions, for their lives. I hesitated but grabbed the brushes anyway. What did I have to lose? The paint flowed like a river of emotion, spilling out years of loneliness. Each stroke was cathartic, a desperate attempt to reclaim my identity and worth. What would they think if they saw this? Would Lisa scoff at the audacity of a loathsome old woman attempting art? The thought only fueled my determination, a fire that flickered to life in the depths of my anguish. With the gallery showcasing my work fast approaching, the uncertainty tightened around me like a noose. What if it failed? However, the thought of Lisa's dismissive face spurred me on. I would stand before my family and reveal the woman I had mistakenly allowed them to overlook for far too long. As I prepared for opening night, I knew that my art wouldn't only tell my story but also challenge the perceptions that had shackled me. Yet as the date drew closer, Lisa's skepticism hung between us like an impending storm. I thought of my mural, the one intertwining our family's roots, and swallowed hard. Would it resonate, or would it leave me doubting the very thing that was supposed to empower me? The night of the exhibit loomed, filled with both promise and the weight of fear. Each passing hour heightened the tension within me, mixing hope with trepidation. I could be cast aside once more, but the chance to reclaim my voice thrummed in my veins, pulling me forward. What awaited me at the gallery could either shatter me or finally mend the rift that had left me feeling so dreadfully invisible. The day of the exhibit arrived, heavy with anticipation, a bittersweet cocktail of fearful hope. As I stepped into the gallery, the aroma of fresh paint mingled with the faint musk of old wood, awakening memories long buried beneath the weight of routine. There was a time when this was my world, a realm filled with color and the soft hum of creativity. Now, however, it felt foreign, a place where my heart thundered like an intruder in a realm of youthful glamour. The walls were adorned with canvases that felt raw yet powerful, my truths splattered across them in vivid hues. I flinched at the thought of Lisa's critical eye surveying my work. Would she see the value? Or would her dismissive words echo louder than the brushstrokes that bled my stories onto the canvas? The thought sank into my stomach, knotted tight with insecurity. As I moved through the gallery, I watched as guests gathered, the adults conversing intently while children played, their laughter warming the chill of my uncertainty. But I felt encased in glass, an observer rather than a participant, just a shadow lingering at the edges of a celebration. It was suffocating, the familiarity of my self-imposed isolation creeping in like a suffocating fog. I yearned to break through, to shout that this was my moment, my reclamation, but the words evaporated before they could find shape. Then I caught sight of Lisa, her face painted with an expression I had grown to despise. The unfamiliar warmth of a new resolve surged within me, countering the instinct to shrink back. I was here for me, not for her. The thought crystallized into a determination as firm as the walls around me. I would not retreat. Today was about liberation. As the evening unfolded, I spoke to friends, and even strangers, sharing the story behind my mural, explaining how each brush stroke represented our family's tangled roots, its intertwining struggles and joys. What started as a fragmented narrative gradually formed a cohesive tale, their rapt attention lending me a strength I thought long buried. I felt the tension ease, the weight of my insecurities lifting with each word I shared. But when I glanced back at Lisa, I was met with a mingling of disbelief and disdain. "You really think this matters?" she asked pointedly, her tone more scornful than inquisitive. My heart sank momentarily, but the fog of her dismissal began to dissolve. It struck me then that I had fallen into the trap of her expectations, letting her voice subdue my own. I took a breath, grounding myself in the moment. "More than you know, Lisa," I replied firmly, a flicker of challenge igniting in my chest. "Art matters, stories matter. My experiences matter." The words resonated, and to my astonishment, around me, a hush fell, a pause in the noise that allowed me to reclaim my space. Encouraged, I turned to the mural again, the vibrant colors shimmering under the gallery lights. "This," I gestured toward it, "is a testament to every sacrifice I've made for our family. It is a reflection of our journey, both beautiful and flawed. I have chosen to share it with you, to reveal not just the artist but the woman you've overlooked." Anxiety buzzed dangerously beneath my skin, yet the conviction in my voice fortuitously drowned out my fears. As the people gathered closer, I felt the shift, an acknowledgement of my presence that I hadn't felt in years. I realized that my identity had, indeed, been dormant but was now drawing breath, exhilaratingly alive. Yet as sparks of recognition flickered in their eyes, I still sensed the tremor of conflict. Lisa's face morphed into a mix of anger and disbelief, but her reaction paled in the face of my unfolding freedom. I had carved out my space and it was empowering, yet my heart whispered anxiously, would this acceptance endure? With every conversation that blossomed around me, I could feel the tension between us coiling tighter, a key drama yet to unfold. As the night progressed, I prepared for the inevitable confrontation, knowing it would either solidify my newfound voice or fracture it altogether. What would her next move be? Would she bend under the weight of my audacity or lash out like she always had? The evening had reached its climax, and I could sense it building, a rush of anticipation threading through the air. I was teetering on the edge of my personal revolution, unsure of what awaited me just beyond the tipping point. Would I emerge empowered, or would the shadows of my past drag me back into silence? The evening lingered with an electric tension, the air thickening as if holding its breath for the confrontation that hung like a dark cloud over us. I could see Lisa shift uncomfortably at the edge of the gathering, her posture rigid, her gaze a storm that threatened to break. The thrill of my momentary liberation was tainted by the knowledge that the very person whose validation I sought might tear it all down again. Conversations swirled around me, voices rising and falling, laughter punctuated by the tinkling of wine glasses, but my focus fell solely on Lisa. It was as if the gallery faded into a blur, leaving only her and the unresolved history that loomed between us. With every passing moment, my determination solidified, but beneath it simmered a fear I couldn't shake. What if her words continued to echo in my mind long after the night was over? I forced myself to smile and engage, speaking with one patron after another, the stories of my work spilling forth like oils on a canvas. Each interaction coated my self-doubt in layers of support, but whenever I caught a glimpse of Lisa's scowl, it felt like a brushstroke that marred my masterpiece. Then, finally, the moment arrived. Lisa approached, the crowd parting like the Red Sea, her expression an unsettling mix of disbelief and indignation. I felt every heartbeat thrumming against my ribcage, a primal response to impending conflict. "You think this is enough?" she spat, her voice sharp as a knife. It sliced through the air, demanding attention, and instantly the surrounding conversations hushed. I could sense the eyes on us, curiosity mingling with suspense. For a brief flicker of time, I faltered, the old insecurities threatening to pull me under. But then, like a floodgate bursting open, the strength I had been cultivating surged through me. "It is, Lisa." "It's more than enough," I replied, my voice steady, even as adrenaline coursed through my veins. "More than enough?" This is a desperate plea for validation. The satisfaction in her voice dripped with derision, but the sting of her words no longer landed where they had before. What as desperate is trying to dim the light of others to feel brighter yourself? This is about growth, healing, and honesty, things you know nothing of. As the words spilled from my mouth, I felt a surprising release. It was as if I had taken a brush to a stormy canvas, creating a new image of my story, one where I could reclaim my narrative. "Have you heard yourself?" she challenged, crossing her arms as if trying to shield her thoughts. "You think this is art?" I stood tall, feeling the sturdy ground beneath my feet, aware of the gallery watching, some even nodding in silent agreement. "It is art because it is true. Every brushstroke describes a journey of resilience, a document of who I am and where I come from. You may not understand it, and that's okay. But it matters, Lisa. I matter." As silence enveloped us, I sensed a shift in perspective among the guests. There was an unspoken acknowledgement of my voice, a collective embrace of my story. Yet Lisa's expression hardened, and that glimmer of recognition I had seen in others remained absent in her eyes. "You're playing the victim now?" she shot back, desperation lacing her tone. The accusation hung between us like a noose, but I felt liberated. The moment transcended beyond our argument. It was a testament to my self-discovery. I was no longer that timid artist, subservient to someone else's view of success. With the finality of that realization, my vision of my life with Lisa dimmed, and along with it, the weight of her judgments. I turned to the guests surrounding us, brushing off the tempest of our confrontation. The crowd's energy was alive, buzzing with a newfound respect for my truth, but deep inside me, the turmoil of our unresolved dynamics stirred. Would this confrontation shatter her defenses, or crystallize them further? The thought fluttered in the back of my mind, a haunting specter nudging at my conscience. The tension in the air crackled with expectation. What would Lisa do next? Would she finally comprehend my journey, or would she lash out, attempting to drown my voice once again? I braced myself, teetering on the precipice of self-awareness and boldness, ready to face whatever storm awaited me next. As I looked out over the crowd, a deep breath anchored me. I could feel it building inside, my strength swelled against the odds, but the night was far from over. The echoes of our confrontation reverberated in my heart, but would I finally silence those of my past? The atmosphere remained thick with whispers, but I sensed a shift in my own energy, as though I had plucked a string long left unattended, and it vibrated with newfound resonance. The confrontation had been the spark I didn't know I needed. It ignited something deep within me, a realization that I was capable of standing firm in my truth, untethered from Lisa's expectations. As the evening deepened, I moved through the throng of patrons with a newfound purpose. Conversations I once dreaded now felt invigorating, and I could feel how my confidence reverberated outward, creating ripples of interest and curiosity. Each exchange became an opportunity to practice self-expression, to challenge my previous inclinations towards self-doubt. In particular, one conversation stayed with me. An older gentleman approached, his eyes alight with admiration. "Your work resonates in such a profound way. It speaks to resilience, doesn't it?" I nodded, grateful for his insight. In that moment, I realized my inner narrative was transforming. I was no longer just an artist, I was a storyteller, weaving human experiences into tangible forms, each brushstroke a testament to struggles overcome. But with every thread of affirmation came the inevitable shadow of Lisa's dismissive remarks. They clung like static electricity in the air, stubborn despite my resolve. Could I truly silence her voice, or would it always linger in the recesses of my mind? The question nagged at me as I moved about. Steeling myself, I approached a cluster of women who were discussing my pieces animatedly. They were analyzing the stories behind my works, interpreting them in ways that made my heart rise. One woman turned to me, her face bright with enthusiasm. "How do you channel such vulnerability into your art?" she asked, and something in her question struck a chord within me. I let go of the need for perfection, I confessed, realizing the words inhabited a truth I needed to embrace. I pour my messy experiences, my pain and joy, directly onto the canvas. It's raw, but it's real. Seeing their nods of understanding filled me with warmth, and I noticed the smiles of encouragement echoed within their eyes, a reflection of my journey towards acceptance. With each dialogue, I dismantled a layer of my former self, substituting fear with courage, inviting vulnerability in with open arms. Yet, as the night wore on, Lisa's presence loomed larger, the weight of our earlier tussle urging me toward a decision. I could use this gathering as a stepping stone toward evolution, or let it echo as a reminder of my past entanglements. I loitered near the edge of the crowd where Lisa stood, seething yet mesmerized by the unfolding conversations. My moment of reflection revealed a startling truth. She was more than an adversary. She was a mirror to my unresolved conflicts, my desires for validation, the need to feel esteemed in someone else's eyes. Facing her was not solely about winning an argument. It was about peeling back the layers of my own psyche, discovering what I truly wished to convey through my art. With a breath of fortitude, I approached her once more, ignoring the tightening knot of anxiety coiling in my stomach. "Lisa, I'm not here to prove anything to you," I started, steadying my voice. "I've been on a journey, and it's time I own that." Her expression softened momentarily, caught off guard. "What do you mean?" I gathered my thoughts, feeling as if the defining moment I had long sought was finally emerging. "I've spent enough time entangled in your perceptions. It's about time I reclaim my narrative, and that means letting go of any judgments, yours or mine." The pause between us charged the air, both vulnerable and volatile at once. I could sense the crowd parting slightly, curiosity shifting toward our small cocoon of confrontation. My fingers itched to grasp the paintbrush again, to express everything I felt through the canvas instead of the conversation. But as her defenses began to crack, I could see something stir, a flicker of recognition, perhaps even respect. Would she embrace this shift? Or toughen her facade further? And in that moment, as the crowd buzzed in anticipation, a thought struck me. I didn't just want to conquer the fear of her judgments. I wanted to understand them, to grapple with them more deeply. Cooking questions emerged in my mind. Did she ever see my worth? Could opening this dialogue bring us to a new understanding, or was I merely grasping at shadows? As I felt the weight of those decisions congeal between us, I sensed that whatever happened next would determine not just our future, but my growth as both an artist and an individual. The evening had begun as a display of self-expression. It was morphing into a confrontation of deeper motives. Would this open the door to reconciliation, or would it splinter the last threads of our connection? I braced myself, ready to move into uncharted territory the moment of truth was upon us. The atmosphere thickened with unsaid words, and I stood at the precipice of a transformative encounter. Lisa's eyes were like mirrors reflecting back my fears, but beneath that tension lay a flicker of opportunity. I took a breath, feeling the weight of my choices as though they were palpable, pressing down like a heavy mist that threatened to engulf me. "Do you really think I don't see your worth?" she asked, her voice betraying a hint of vulnerability. It was a question I hadn't anticipated, yet I felt an urge to tackle it head-on, to dissect the tangled emotions between us. I realized that the moment was not merely for confrontation. It was a chance to carve a new path, perhaps even reshape our relationship. "I've spent months worrying about how you perceive me, allowing your judgments to color how I see myself," I admitted, the truth spilling forth before I had time to second-guess it. This vulnerability was foreign but exhilarating. But I'm learning to embrace my artistry for what it is, a raw expression of my experiences. Lisa absorbed my words, her defenses faltering further. I could see the shift in her body language. The tension around her shoulders eased slightly as if my admission was a bomb. It dawned on me that painful exchanges had clouded her perception of me just as I had let hers distort my own reflection. Perhaps our confrontation could bridge a divide rather than deepen it. The energy in the room intensified, drawing curious glances from onlookers, their anticipation palpable. A part of me wanted to retreat, to escape the spotlight now shining on me, but I also understood the significance of my standing ground. This conversation could either return us to hostility, or pave the way for healing. Art thrives on imperfection, I continued, allowing authenticity to cascade. I've let go of the notion of producing something that meets your standards. Instead, I strive to let my life's chaos and beauty blend into something true. Each word felt like a brushstroke, refining my self-portrait with greater clarity. Lisa's brow furrowed as she processed my declaration. The scorn I had come to expect began to dissipate, revealing traces of reflection instead. "You've always had talent, you know," she said cautiously, her words tentative like newly unfurling leaves. I might have overlooked that. There it was, a breakthrough moment. In my eagerness to challenge her judgments, I hadn't given much thought to the cracks forming in her facade. I sensed that, beneath the surface, she battled her own insecurities, ones that manifested as scorn toward my work. Could it be that our shared doubts were binding us in a twisted bond? This thought both frightened and intrigued me. "Let us not pretend our history hasn't shaped our art, and each other," I replied, leaning closer as the surrounding buzz faded into background noise. "I want to understand why you've said what you said to me. How much of that comes from your own experiences?" Her eyes darkened momentarily as defensiveness crept back. "Art is subjective. I want the best for you, but perhaps I've been too harsh. I just don't want you to fail." Pointing this out was like unraveling a skein of yarn. Understanding could instigate change. But criticizing me endlessly didn't guide me toward growth. It suffocated it, I said softly. "Challenge is necessary, but it should ignite passion instead of extinguishing it. We both can learn from this." As the waves of tension ebbed, I felt a pulse of hope. This was not a distance I had anticipated traversing. Ready to embrace the dialogue, I also feared what could emerge. Would this vulnerability lead her to reconsider her approach, or would it spell more complexities for us? Suddenly, Lisa took a deep intake of air, her gaze sharpening. "I was scared to support you fully, afraid of getting left behind," she confessed, the words trembling on her lips as if they were laden with consequences. "Then let us be scared together, but choose to elevate instead," I proposed, compassion threading through my voice. The night held its breath, an uncertain promise of change hanging in the air. Would our shared fears dissolve into renewed respect, or would hesitation while navigating this new arena further entangle us? The moment beckoned an exploration of not just our connection, but a deeper understanding of our individual identities as artists. Curiosity flared through me. What discoveries waited just beyond the edge of this newfound dialogue? In the silence that followed Lisa's admission, my heart raced. It struck me how delicate this moment was, as if we were balancing on a tightrope strung between vulnerability and raw, unfiltered emotion. The realization that both of us had worn masks for so long created an electric tension, sparking fire within me. Would I harness this energy, or would it consume me? Being afraid should fuel our desire to grow, not paralyze us, I said, eyes searching hers for connection. My instincts tingled with the urge to expand on this truth. We've let fear dictate not just how we interact but also how we create. Imagine what might happen if we channeled that fear into our work instead. Lisa hesitated, her expression contemplative, yet I could sense the walls behind her eyes reforming. This was an inflection point. I had the power to contribute to the narrative of our relationship. I leaned in, my voice steady. What if we created together? What if we pushed through this fear and produced something authentic? The thought electrified me, but I also felt the weight of risk. Working alongside someone who had oscillated between support and criticism was fraught with potential disaster. Yet the uncharted waters of collaboration sparked something in me, a craving for connection, growth, unearthing shared creativity. I don't want to simply exist in this prevailing tension, I continued, my pulse quickening. I want to confront our fears, evolve as artists, as people. For a moment, Lisa's brow furrowed deeper. What makes you think I'm ready to collaborate? I've dismissed you so many times. I've hurt you. Because I see your potential, I answered, my determination unwavering. And I refuse to ignore mine any longer. Each word was a declaration of independence, a tether to my core beliefs. No longer would I shape my reality based on her judgments alone. As I spoke, clarity washed over me. A vision for not just our dynamic, but for my own artistic journey began to materialize. The notion of weaving our experiences, her critiques, my struggles could create a tapestry unlike anything we had produced alone. Let us not shy away from our complexities, I urged, but instead embrace them to forge something bigger. We could mentor each other, learn new techniques, challenge new boundaries. With each sentence, I coaxed out the artist within both of us, shining light upon our insecurities and inviting them to become stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks. I could see her defenses wavering. Slowly, she started to explore the possibility of reconciliation with her own creative self. Perhaps, she murmured, resignation mingling with curiosity. But what if it doesn't work? What if it just leads to more disappointment? Then we either address it together purposefully or redefine our paths. I could feel hope brewing between us, a fragile momentum gaining strength. Let us not waste this moment on what might go wrong. Instead, let us use it to create something that resonates beyond our fears. For a heartbeat, the atmosphere shifted. Responses flowed like ink from a pen as we began exchanging ideas, our shared fears morphing into a canvas for collaboration. Yet, beneath the thrill of possibility lurked uncertainty. Could we truly dismantle the barriers that had divided us? Would we be willing to navigate the complexities of our artistic identities together, defying the gravitational pull of our past? The clock ticked audibly, marking the intensity of our exchange. I took note of the subtle shifts in her expression, small nods, deep breaths that hinted at her growing openness. But just as hope fluttered optimistically, I felt the gravity of previous disagreements linger, casting shadows over our budding intentions. Could we escape the patterns of the past, or had we merely traded one comfort zone for another? The question loomed as I caught Lisa's gaze again, now softened with intrigue, yet still wary. Fear still coiled securely around us, and I knew this was only the beginning. What remained unaddressed, the subtext of our fears and the weight of expectation, could either fuel our artistic revival or sink us deeper into uncertainty. The moment swung like a pendulum, balanced on the precipice of our choices. Would we redefine our relationship and discover new facets of ourselves in the process, or would we continue reciting the old scripts, tangled in reluctance and doubt? An invitation hung tantalizingly between us. Would we dare to go further? As our conversation ebbed and flowed, I could see the tentative curiosity in Lisa's eyes slowly shifting toward determination. It was as if we had opened a door, letting in the light after being cloistered in the shadows of our past misunderstandings. The possibilities felt palpable, yet they were also underscored by an unease that I couldn't ignore. "All right," she finally said, the resolve firming in her voice. "Let us say we experiment with our collaboration. What would that look like?" Her inquiry struck me as both an invitation and a challenge, and I felt a spark ignite within me. First, we need to set rules, guidelines that keep us grounded but also allow for exploration. We can't let emotions spill over in ways that drag us down, I suggested, adrenaline coursing through my veins. It felt monumental, this turning point, a commitment to intentionally reshape our dynamic. Lisa nodded, biting her lip in thought. And the feedback? It has to be constructive, no more harsh critiques. We've both suffered from that. True, her honesty about the past was cutting, yet invigorating. It made me recognize my own shortcomings. I had often recoiled under the weight of her judgments, and it was time I acknowledged the common battlefield we had been navigating together. Agreed. I want to grow from this exchange, not feel diminished by it. Then we take it piece by piece. Share thoughts, brainstorm ideas, work through drafts. If something doesn't land, we iterate. No blame, just growth, she articulated, a tone of newfound confidence threading through her words. The concept of iterating felt groundbreaking. Giving ourselves permission to break down ideas and reconstruct them without judgment would be vital in moving forward. I could feel exhilaration swell within me, building a bridge of trust where there had once been conflict. Let us define our first project together. Something authentic, I suggested, the tension of uncertainty weaving through my excitement. Authentic, Lisa echoed, her brow furrowing as she mulled over the weight of that word. What does that mean for us? It means diving deep into our stories. We each carry unique experiences that deserve to be shared, explored, expressed. Maybe we blend our mediums, your photography, my writing. Create a narrative that resonates. Her gaze met mine, and I could see wheels turning in her mind. That could work. I have a few pieces I've never shown anyone, almost like hidden parts of myself I've kept behind glass. I prepared to push the conversation further when a flicker of doubt washed over me. Are you sure you want to share those? It requires a level of trust I'm not sure we've established yet. Trust is built, not given, she responded, her voice steady. If we're truly moving forward as collaborators, it has to begin with exposing ourselves to each other. I nodded, absorbing her maturity, yet silent apprehension gnawed at me. I still couldn't shake the memories of the criticism infused in our past interactions. Was I making the right choice to leap into this collaboration? What if revisiting our experiences only reignited the embers of resentment? Then let us set a deadline for our first piece. Each word felt heavy with urgency. How about we aim for 2 weeks? A tangible goal to help us stay focused. 2 weeks, then, Lisa affirmed, her eyes glinting with determination. But internally, I wrestled with a storm of emotions, excitement overshadowed by doubt. In the days that followed, I found myself alternating between enthusiasm for our project and an escalating anxiety about my own capabilities. What if I faltered? What if my contributions didn't match hers? Or worse, pushed her away again? Additionally, Lisa was still a wild card. Would she remain committed and supportive, or would past animosities reemerge? As I prepped ideas, sketches, and phrases in the solitude of my workspace, I frequently questioned my capacity to open up, to reveal my rawest self without the defenses I had painstakingly built up over the years. Could I expose the artist I believed I could be, free from the shadows of my fears? With thoughts swirling around in my mind like chaotic brushstrokes on a canvas, I realized the gravity of what lay ahead. Dare to create something authentic, to mesh our vulnerabilities into art. But before I could lace my own understanding of trust into our collaboration, an unexpected phone call disrupted my thoughts. A name flashed on the screen, a name I had pushed out of my life but refused to let go of entirely. Could this be the moment that unravels not only our project but the very essence of my personal growth? With bated breath, I answered. The voice on the other end was both familiar and foreign, mingling nostalgia with a tinge of resentment. Hi, it's Sarah, she said, hesitation dancing in her tone. My breath hitched as memories flickered like an old film reel, each frame darker than the last. Sarah, the daughter-in-law I had welcomed into our family with open arms, had turned my world upside down not so long ago. After one particularly explosive argument, she had branded me a loathsome old woman, an insult that had carved itself into my heart, embedding doubt and guilt deep within. What do you want? I managed, my tone colder than I intended. I need to talk, and I can't do this over text, she replied, her voice wavering but resolute. I really regret how things ended, and I think we owe it to ourselves to discuss it. Regret was an interesting word. It held weight, it hinted at change, growth. Yet, it was also a worn-out currency, one I had traded far too often in the past. But this was different. The notion of reconciliation floated in the air between us, tantalizingly close yet guarded by an ocean of unresolved tension. Why now? I questioned, the skepticism spinning in my chest. Why not when it mattered? Because I've been doing some soul-searching, and I realized that I misjudged you. Mosley, I was just scared of the idea of losing Jake and your place in his life. I thought you were trying to take him away from me. The accusation rang painfully true. As a mother, I had always fiercely protected my son, perhaps too much so, allowing my instinctual reactions to hinder rather than help. And what if we aren't actually at odds? Have you considered that? Silence stretched between us, heavy yet liberating. Can we meet? I want to talk face to face, she said finally, her sincerity reaching out to me like a lifebuoy in turbulent waters. I hesitated, thoughts colliding with one another. Was I ready to embrace this unexpected opportunity for healing, when I was still navigating this new, challenging collaboration with Lisa? Would engaging with Sarah lend me perspective, or would it plunge me back into a sea of insecurities? All right, I agreed, the words slipping out before I could reevaluate. Where do you want to meet? As we made plans, an underlying wave of determination began to swell within me. Sarah's call was not just about reconciling past hurts. It held the potential for me an opportunity to evolve. Articulating my own vulnerabilities within this conversation could empower me and demonstrate growth. We decided to meet at a quiet cafe nestled among the trees close to my home, a place that offered anonymity yet warmth. When I hung up, I felt a rush of conflicting emotions, hope paired with anxiety and a determination to reclaim my narrative. With just days before my collaboration deadline with Lisa loomed overhead, shifting my focus onto a new conversation with Sarah felt disorienting. Yet, as I mulled over the impending meeting, I realized it was a chance for growth in multiple dimensions. As I organized my sketches, trying to push thoughts of Sarah aside, I couldn't deny the synergy that was starting to develop around me. Perhaps my collaboration with Lisa could benefit from this chance to confront my past, leading to deeper layers of honesty in our joint project. But what if the confrontation did more than shine light on my relationship with Sarah? What if it unearthed hidden connections to my current work and the authentic narrative I sought to create with Lisa? Each question propelled me toward the future, revealing the delicate balance between my past and potential. As I prepared for the meeting with Sarah, anxiety churned in my stomach, but alongside it was something exhilarating, a sense of purpose. There would be no blame, no walls of resentment in our conversation, only the opportunity to grow from our intertwined stories. What unexpected revelations would arise from this confrontation? Would Sarah be able to understand that her actions had not just hurt me but had pushed me into a transformation I had not recognized until now? The moment of truth was approaching, and with it, the chance to redefine not just one relationship but my very self. Would I seize it, or would I allow fear to hold me back yet again? The cafe was just around the corner, and as I stepped out, my heart raced with anticipation. The convergence of two distinct paths awaited me, each fraught with possibility. A decision loomed, and with it, the question of whether I could embrace my growth amid uncertainty. The cafe was unassuming yet inviting, the air tinged with the scent of fresh coffee and baked goods. As I entered, the gentle murmur of conversation enveloped me, contrasting the storm of thoughts in my mind. Each step I took felt weighted, as if I were crossing the threshold not just into the cafe, but into a pivotal moment of my life. I spotted Sarah seated at a corner table, nervously glancing at her watch. Her posture was tense, and for a split second, I felt an urge to turn back. But a flicker of determination ignited within me. This was my opportunity to reclaim my voice. "Hi," I said, forcing a smile that belied the turbulence beneath. She looked up, momentarily startled, and then smiled back, albeit weakly. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice soft but shaky. "Let us just talk," I proposed, taking a seat opposite her. The awkward silence loomed over us as I searched her face for any signs of the girl I had once welcomed with open arms. She sighed, her hands fidgeting with the napkin on the table. "I've had time to reflect on everything. I realize now that my fears pushed me to act bitterly. I panicked about my role in Jake's life, and I took it out on you." The admission stirred something deep within me. A part of me longed to tell her how her words had cut me, how they still echoed in the quiet moments of my days. But instead, I pushed that pain aside, willing myself to focus on the potential for healing. "Sarah, I've had my own realizations too. My protectiveness over Jake sometimes overshadowed the support I wanted to offer you as a mother. A rush of vulnerability bridged the chasm between us, creating a thread of connection I hadn't anticipated. She met my gaze, her eyes now brimming with a mixture of remorse and gratitude. "I never meant to hurt you," she admitted, and something in her voice indicated she was truly sincere. We began to peel away the layers of hurt that had shadowed our relationship. Each shared memory, both painful and joyful, unraveled knots of misunderstanding, revealing the complex emotions underlying our struggles. As I spoke about my insecurities as a mother and the intense urge to hold on to my son, I could see Sarah absorbing my words, a realization dawning upon her. "I couldn't see beyond my fears," she confessed, tears pooling in her eyes. "I thought you were a threat, but now I see that you were just being a mother." In that moment, I felt a shift within myself as well. The bitter title of "Loathsome Old Woman" that had haunted me began to lose its grip. Sarah's acknowledgement felt like a fresh breeze, stirring the stagnation of guilt and doubt that had clouded my perception of both our relationship and myself. As we talked, I sensed a growing determination igniting within me. This was not merely about repairing our relationship, but about reinforcing my own sense of identity. I began to see myself as a seasoned guardian and guide rather than a hindrance in the lives of those I loved. We spent hours at that cafe, sharing laughter and tears. With each passing moment, I felt lighter, a burden lifting, replaced by hope and a sense of clarity. Just as our dialogue reached a moment of serene understanding, I noticed the time. My meeting with Lisa was looming, and I realized I was now entering this new collaboration with a renewed sense of purpose and confidence. But before we left, Sarah turned serious again, her gaze piercing through the lightness of our conversation. "Can I ask you something?" she said hesitantly. "What's next for you? I feel like it's more than just our relationship that you're ready to redefine." Her question echoed in my mind, igniting a wave of thoughts. What had I discovered here today that could propel me forward? How could I channel this newfound confidence into my work with Lisa? As I smiled at Sarah, I felt invigorated, ready to embrace not just our renewed bond, but also the artist rising within me. Little did I know, my journey with Lisa was about to intersect with this personal transformation in ways I never saw coming. What unexpected opportunities lay ahead as I stepped into my next chapter? Would my past revelations reshape my professional aspirations and alter the course of my creation with Lisa? As the day transitioned into a soft evening glow, Martha stood before her canvas in the familiar embrace of her studio, feeling like a phoenix reborn. The chaotic splashes of color danced on the surface, embodying the whirlwind of emotions she had experienced in the past weeks: the confrontation with Lisa, the unexpected reconciliation with Sarah, and most importantly, her reclamation of self. It was time to merge her journey into a new artistic endeavor, one that boldly showcased her transformation while infusing the very essence of her relationships. The collaboration with Lisa had begun with uncertainty, yet Martha felt an undeniable spark igniting between them. They had set aside rigid expectations in exchange for openness, embracing their respective vulnerabilities. Each brushstroke and flash of a camera became a metaphorical thread weaving their stories together, a narrative rich with growth, discord, and reconciliation. Empowerment surged through Martha. She was no longer confined by Lisa's past criticisms or her own insecurities. On the day of their joint exhibition, anticipation crackled in the air. Guests filtered into the gallery, murmurs of excitement cascading like a gentle wave, but it was Martha standing center stage who truly felt the shift. The artworks displayed around her represented not only a collaboration but also a heartfelt narrative of their intertwined lives, a journey through adversity transformed into resilience. Both Martha and Lisa had bravely faced their fears, allowing the depth of their experiences to illuminate every canvas. When she caught Lisa's eye, an unspoken understanding passed between them. The earlier resentments had melted away, replaced with a palpable sense of respect. Lisa, standing beside her, was not just a collaborator, but a witness to Martha's evolution, a beautiful exchange of support rather than competition. Martha took a moment to draw in the laughter and chatter surrounding them, the warmth of acceptance wrapping around her like a comforting shawl. Instead of retreating into the shadows, she had stepped into her truth, demanding recognition as a woman, an artist, and a mother. Her work resonated not merely as art but as a testament, a battle cry that proclaimed her stories mattered. As the gallery buzzed, a breakthrough dawned. An older woman approached her, eyes glistening with admiration. "Your pieces touch something deep within. They resonate with authenticity and strength," she said, echoing sentiments shared by many. Validation washed over Martha, no longer a mere echo of Lisa's scorn, but a chorus of acknowledgement that harmonized with the unfolding of her identity. With each positive interaction, Martha felt those lingering shadows fade. She no longer defined herself in relation to any one person's judgments. The metamorphosis was evident, not only in her art but in her ability to stand firm and articulate her voice, blending vulnerability with profound strength. By the end of the night, when the guests stepped away, hearts and minds stirred by her artwork, Martha felt a rare moment of stillness. A warmth surged through her heart. Not merely for the recognition, but for the liberation that came from sharing her journey. She was embraced not just as a mother, but as an artist with her own unique story, a dynamic narrative deserving of celebration. As Martha stood there, the self-doubt dissipated, replaced by a fierce confidence that crystallized her journey from loathsome old woman to a celebrated artist in her own right. She had conquered the fear that had held her hostage. She was no longer hidden in the attic of neglect but standing tall as a vibrant representation of resilience and ingenuity. As the night came to a close, her family, now more visibly supportive and appreciative, surrounded her. The barriers had begun to dissolve, replaced by renewed understanding. Lisa, with her complex layers of vulnerability, offered a tentative but genuine smile. There was no need for further confrontation. They had forged a path of artistic camaraderie that transcended past misunderstandings. With a deep breath of fulfillment, Martha understood that she had come full circle. The woman she had been overshadowed by doubt had risen anew, embodying the strength she always possessed. The gallery, the artworks, and the connections she was forging were a celebration of that renewal. Now, with a radiant sense of accomplishment, Martha decided to take the steps needed to share her story further, to impact others in their own journeys of discovery. The moment was ripe for expansion, and she envisioned workshops for aspiring artists who grappled with their identity, much like she had a way to turn her experience into a guiding light for others. This new chapter was not just about personal triumph, but had blossomed into a deeper purpose. She was finally on her way to establishing a lasting legacy through art, one defined by authenticity, collaboration, and mutual empowerment. And as she absorbed the night's joyous energy, she felt ready to embrace anything that lay ahead, confident, competent, and most importantly, free. Now is the time for you to show your support. If you want more transformative stories like this, you need to subscribe immediately to our channel. Leave a like now to help feed the algorithm that brings these stories to life. Tell us your reactions and theories about the ending in the comments below. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let us spread the message of personal growth and transformation together.